over there. She grew up in this church, and her father was over there, and her grandparents were here. And, I've learned from Mennonite culture that I might be related to half of you, so hello. It's really good to be here. Part of why I'm here is to convince Larry to root for the Warriors, but yes. Now he's happy. Hey, it's really good to be here. I'm excited to be here with you guys. I've been here with my wife, Easter, Christmas Eve, and special events, but this is my first regular Sunday morning to be here, so it's very cool. So thanks for having us here. This morning, I want to talk about how we view our relationship with Jesus. And I'm going to say something, and it's going to sound crazy, and it's going to sound like I probably have no business being up here, but give me a second because I'm going somewhere with you. But here's what I want to say. One of the problems that we have, I think, as Christians, is we view our relationship with Jesus, and we view our lives like a priority list, like a to-do list. We make Jesus our number one priority. And what I want to say is I think making Jesus our number one priority isn't how we should view our relationship with Jesus. And that's why we're thinking, yeah, Angela's face is like, he shouldn't be speaking. Because Jesus takes it further than that. Jesus takes it way further than that. But a lot of us do that. So here's what I mean by that. Any of you guys like to make to-do lists? Yes, I do it all the time. And in fact, I do it to the extent where if I forget to put something on my to-do list, and I do it, I'll go back and I'll go put it on there so I can cross it off. Amen. Yes, amen. Yeah. So when we do that, here's what it looks like. I'm going to try to make it so you can still film this, but and so you guys can see this. So here's what we do with a to-do list mentality. So as good Christians, we have our to-do list, and so we'll put time with Jesus first thing because we're good Christians. So we're coming to church. Thank you. We're coming to church, and throughout the week you pray, read your Bible, all that. What else would you have in a typical week? What else do you have on your to-do list? We're not going to make it super far. Laundry. Okay. The handwriting will get worse and harder to read. Laundry. What else?
Grocery store.
Grocery store. Okay. Yeah. You need food. What else? Work. Okay, I was going to say work. No one wants to think about that. It's still a weekend.
Vacuum the cat.
Vacuum the cat. Okay. That's not a mine, but okay. Okay, cat hair, whatever that looks like for you. Buy Band-Aids. Yeah. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things. So you have school. You have. Every week is a little bit different. One week it might be taking your friend to the airport. Another week you have to get your taxes done. There's different things all the time, and you have all these different things. But here's what we do. Whatever your to-do list looks like, and to-do lists aren't a bad thing, I do them all the time. Here's what we do sometimes when we make Jesus our number one priority. We say, okay, I put him first. I'm here Sunday morning at church, and then we walk out those doors in a little while, and we say, well, what do you do on a to-do list? You check it off. My time with Jesus is done for today. Or sometimes we say, my time with Jesus is done for the week. And we say, well, that's done, but I made it priority. And then we go on, and we have to go vacuum the cat, or whatever. You have to go to the store, do your laundry, but it doesn't connect. What does laundry have to do with Jesus? What does going to the store have to do with Jesus? What does work have to do with Jesus? And we approach it with, well, I checked off my Jesus time, so I'm done. Either for today, for the week, for the month, whatever it might be. And so Jesus calls us to do so much more than that. If you have your Bibles, or it'll be on the screen, I want to look at Matthew chapter 22. And so in Matthew chapter 22, Jesus gets asked by some of the religious leaders, what's the greatest commandment? And so he says in verse 35 to 38, it says, one of them, an expert in the law, tested Jesus with this question. Teacher, which is the greatest commandment in the law? Jesus replied, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. So Jesus says here, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. He's not saying, it's saying, love Jesus with everything that you have. Every part of who you are, love Jesus with that. And so we can't follow that commandment if we just say, okay, well, I've done my Jesus time for the day, so I cross out. Jesus is saying, no, love God with every part of your life, with every part of who you are. with your heart, with your soul, with your mind, with your strength. You give him every part of your life. And say, I want to put you in every aspect of my life. When Jesus says this commandment, he's quoting from a passage in Deuteronomy. It was called the Shema. The Israelites, this was a very important passage to them. And this is what it says in Deuteronomy 6, 4-9. It says, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be upon your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. The Israelites, they took this very seriously, the love of everything that they had. That they would put physical reminders in their home to remind themselves, God is the center of everything that we do. He's not just one part. He's not just on Sunday mornings. He's every part of what we do. And it took this very, very seriously. And it talks about talking about it with your family. And I think one of the things that we're afraid of is we have this attitude of, well, I don't know enough what to talk about. I'm not the paid professional, so I'm going to leave that to Larry. I'm going to let Angela and her leaders teach my kids at Wildside or on Sunday, whatever you guys have going on with children on Sunday morning. I'm going to let the professionals deal with that because they know better, and I'm not going to go into that realm with my kids. But studies show that parents, families, you guys are more influential than church staff. As great as your church staff is and your volunteers, you have great staff, great volunteers. I was a youth pastor for a long time, and I would tell parents, I'm not as influential on your kids' life spiritually as you are. You guys are more influential. Because way more is caught than taught. Your kids are watching you all the time, every day. And so they learn. So when Sunday morning, if that's optional, but then come Monday, when your kid doesn't want to go to school, is that ever an option? It's never an option. And they'll learn, okay, well, Sunday morning is not important, but Monday, man, going to school, that's important. And they'll learn everything else is talked about at home, but if Jesus isn't talked about at home, they'll learn, well, those other things are important. Maybe Jesus isn't as important. Or even though you're not a paid professional when it comes to teaching, I bet a lot of your parents or families, you help your kids with school. But you say, but we'll leave the Jesus thing to the paid professionals. They're going to pick up on those kind of things. And so this passage says, come together as a family, talk about Jesus. It says, as you walk along the road, we don't really walk along the road as much. We drive along the road. So maybe in the car, you talk about Jesus. At home, when you're sitting down for dinner, you find opportunities. What did you learn at Wildside if your kids are in Wildside? What did you learn at church on Sunday morning? You find these opportunities to talk about Jesus in your home. Because that's what the Israelites did. They said, if we're going to love the Lord our God with all our heart, with all our soul, with all our mind, with all our strength, we're going to have to put him in every part of our life. That includes family, that includes home life, that includes on the road, that includes work, that includes everywhere we go. And so what I'd like for us to do, instead of viewing Jesus as something that I did my Jesus time today, it's crossed off, it's done, is instead and view it a little bit differently and say, okay, I want Jesus to be at the center of everything that I do. And so Jesus is in the center, and then you got work, but Jesus is centered around that. You have family, but Jesus is centered around that. School, and then you fill in the rest. Going to the store, maybe you got sports, you got band, you got your golf buddies, you got music. Whatever it is, all the other aspects of your life, say, okay, Jesus, I want to put you in the center of every aspect. I don't want to I'm done with you and you don't connect to the rest of my life. Say, okay, when I'm with my family, I want you to be in the center of that. When I'm at work, I want you to be in the center of that. When I'm at school, I want you to be at the center of that. Every part of my life, when I'm going to Safeway, will you be at the center of my time at Safeway? And if you work at Safeway, you just combine two of them right there. Wherever it might be. And some of the things, we can think of some things in life, but the little aspects of life, how do I make Jesus the center of the tiny little aspects of my life. And there's this passage in 1 Corinthians 10:31. It says, whether you eat or drink, whatever you do it all for the glory of God. And I don't know about you, but this passage for me is kind of when like the 6-year-old in me comes out and say, okay, whatever I do, eating food for the glory of God. How do you eat food for the glory of God? You just sit there with your food and say, God, I hope everybody glorifies you in this burrito. I don't think that's what it looks like. But, you know, I have a nephew, and he kind of questions a lot of things, and I'm reminded of that. Sometimes we approach the Bible and question, what does it really look like? How can we really glorify God with even eating food? Well, there's a bigger context to this passage, and sometimes as Christians what we do is we just take one little verse and we just pull it out and say, okay, let's apply this, and we don't look at the broader context of it, which can be kind of dangerous. We'd never do that with cooking. How many of you enjoy cooking? Would you ever take one part of the recipe and just pull it out and be like, got it, right there? You know, I'm not good at cooking. Jacqueline can testify to that. But I know enough about cooking that I know this. It's important to get the context. You wouldn't just say, hey, cook for 30 minutes. Got it. Because I know there's a big difference between cooking for 30 minutes in the oven and cooking for 30 minutes in the microwave. The difference is the fire department coming or not. There's a big difference. You don't just pull out part of it. So let me read more of this. In this passage in chapter 10, it started with verse 23. It says, everything is permissible, but not everything is beneficial. Everything is permissible, but not everything is constructive. Nobody should seek his own good, but the good of others. Eat anything sold in the meat market without raising questions of conscience. For the earth is the Lord's and everything in it. So here's what's going on in this time. Is you don't just go to the grocery store and go pick out what you want. They don't have, you go to like a market, almost like a farmer's market, and you can go get what you want there. But they had all these pagan temples at the time, and they would have this meat that would be sacrificed to idols. But they would have leftovers, so they would just bring it and sell it on the market. So some Christians are wrestling with, man, that was sold to this pagan god. Can I eat that? And so this is what the passage is addressing. It says, if some unbeliever invites you to a meal and you want to go, eat what is ever put before you without raising questions of conscience. But if anyone says to you, this has been offered as sacrifice, then do not eat it, both for the sake of the person who told you and for conscience sake. The other person's conscience, not yours. For why should my freedom be judged by another's conscience? If I take part in the meal with thankfulness, why am I denounced because of something I thank God for? So here's where our passage comes in. So whether you eat or drink, whatever you do it all for the glory of God. Do not cause anyone to stumble, whether Jews, Greek, or the church of God, even as I try to please everybody in every way. For I am not seeking my own good, but the good of the many, so that they may be saved. Paul in this passage is saying, look, I have the freedom to eat meat. He says that if that freedom caused somebody to stumble in their faith, then I won't do it. He says that's what it means for me to glorify God, even in eating or drinking. He said, man, if that would just cause somebody to stumble, I'm not going to do it. Because I want to glorify God in everything that I do. Even the little things, like eating food. I want to make sure God's glorified in that. And so the question is for us, well, how do we glorify God in the little things of our lives, the other details of our lives? We're used to, okay, Sunday morning, I know what that means. But how do we do it in the other areas of our lives? How do you glorify God when you're driving your car? Does that mean you got to put your hands on 10 and 2, make sure you check your mirrors, you got Christian music playing, and you got a Christian bumper sticker in case the rapture of this car is yours, and then you're good, you're glorifying God because you got a Christian car going on right now. You can do those things. But I think it also is just a little bit simpler. I think it means when that person cuts you off, the words that come out of your mouth, even though they can't hear you, so you think they can, that they glorify God. Or when you're driving in the fast lane and the person in front of you is driving 15 miles per hour under the speed limit, just forgive them. How do you glorify God at work? What does that mean? You don't work for a Christian company. What does it look like to glorify God at work? Well, maybe part of it is just doing your work with integrity. Part of it is doing it with a smile on your face, respecting your boss who you may not like, and that can be very difficult. Maybe God's going to lay on your heart, there's this coworker, and I want you to invite them to church. And that's a new thing for you to say, okay, God, in order for me to put you in the center of my work. I come to work and say, whatever you want me to do. Maybe for school, it means that there's someone at your school, and they're the person that doesn't have any friends. No one ever talks to them. And God says, what I want you to do is I want you to reach out to them. I want you to be the one that loves them, and they can feel my love through you. And that may mean sacrificing the other things that you want to do at your time at school. You look at all the aspects of your life and you say, okay, what does it mean for me to make Jesus the center of every part of my life? And it means just approaching the different aspects of your life and saying, Jesus, whatever you want me to do today, I'll do it. It takes courage, though. It's easy to, right now in this room, it's really easy to say, yeah, I'll do that. I'm on board with that. But then Jesus is going to provide you opportunities, and you've got to take them up, which is a difficult thing. I remember there was a time when I was in the grocery store, and I was wearing, this was a while back, and I was actually in high school, and I was wearing this sweatshirt from a Christian club I was a part of, and it said devoted on it. And the whole point of that sweatshirt was that people would say, hey, what are you devoted to? And then you could say, devoted to Jesus, and it opens up this door, and it's very easy. So I'm checking out, and the cashier asked me, what are you devoted to? What's this sweatshirt about? And I had this open door to make Jesus central in my time. Sorry, it's Lucky. It wasn't Safeway. To make Jesus central in my time at Lucky. And my response was, oh, it's just part of this club thing. I didn't take it. Jesus is going to provide opportunities. And you say, I want to be central in every part of my life. He'll provide the opportunities, but we need to also pray for the courage and the boldness to take those opportunities. Because he's going to call you to do some things that are going to be tough at times. It's a different mindset to come to work and say, I'm not just here to make money, and I'm not just here to get my job done, but I'm here, God, to put you in the center of this, and whatever that means, I'm here to do that. That's a whole different mindset to go to school and say, okay, Jesus, you're at the center. I'm here to learn. I'm here to get good grades. I'm here to get that piece of paper. But I'm also here to do whatever it is you want me to do. It's a different mindset. But to say, okay, Jesus, I want to go on that adventure with you. For some of us, it's scary to let go of that control. Because right now we like to be in control of all those things. And to say, okay, Jesus, I'm going to give you control, let you be in the center of those things. It's a little bit scary, but Jesus says in John 10:10, says, I've come that you may have life and have it to the fullest. And sometimes we think, if I give Jesus control, it's going to be boring, I'm not going to be able to do what I want to do. And he said, look, I'm the one that offers you the best life possible. If you would just put me in the center of all the parts of your life. It's a way different mindset than I did my Jesus thing for today. I'm done. I went to church. None of the rest of my day has anything to do with him. Say, okay, everything I do. But it's tough because we don't give up control very easily. And there's a passage, Romans 12 says, I urge you, brothers and sisters, to offer your body as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. So here's the thing: in the Old Testament, if you're familiar with the Old Testament, what did they do for offering? They would kill an animal, put it on the altar. That's pretty easy. Well, as a living sacrifice, though, what do we do when we place ourselves on the altar as a living sacrifice? Sometimes like, I'm going to get off the altar now. A living sacrifice can move and get off the altar. But we're called to continually be a living sacrifice. And to be a sacrifice, we have to hand it all over, our lives all over. So here's what we do. I'm going to use Angela as an example. So if I said, Angela, I'm offering you this Bible, what's the problem? I'm not letting go. And that's what we do with our lives. Say, God, I offer you my life. Don't let go. That's what we do with God. Like, God, I offer you my whole life. And we don't let go. And it's not until we take our hands off and say, okay, you have everything. But sometimes we just cling on to parts. Even maybe just got 2 fingers. Like, I'll give you everything, but I got these 2 fingers on this part of my life. I'm going to take that. Okay. It didn't really operate, so it was a trick. So we do that with Jesus. We say, okay, God, you can have my whole life, but you're just clinging to that. There's that part at work, or that relationship, or that sin that you don't want to let go of. There's these parts of your life you say, God, you can have it all. I want to follow you, but I'm still clinging to that one part. And Jesus says, no, you just need to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. Let go, take your hands off your life, and give it all to Him. It's not easy to do. But if you would pray that, God, give me the boldness, give me the courage to do that. So what I want us to do in a little bit, so Rochelle's going to come up in a moment. moment. She's going to explain something cool that we're going to do that she came up with, and it'll be a way for us to express to God our response to what He calls us to do. But in order to prepare for that, I would want us to close our eyes and bow our heads if you do that with me. And just between you and God, take some time and ask Him to speak to you. What is God trying to say to you this morning? For some of you, there may be something this morning that's crystal clear. There's a part of your life that you haven't handed over to Him. Maybe you've just approached your whole life as Jesus belongs on Sunday morning and maybe a couple other select parts of your week. But besides that, He doesn't connect to the rest of your life. And you need to flip that mindset and say, okay, I want to put you in the center of all my life, not just a couple hours of my week. Now, I want to give you some time to do business with God. And something may be clear today. Maybe as you go throughout your week, God's going to make some things clear. But right now, just you alone, silently in your heart with God, do some business with Him. And let Him speak to you about what He's trying to say to you this morning. So do that right now. Whatever it is we need to change. I also pray that if any of us here are feeling guilty or shame about anything that you've spoken to us about, that you would take that away. Because Jesus died on the cross to take away our guilt, to take away our shame. And you give us the freedom because of what you did on the cross, that we can live the kind of life you want us to live. So help us not to feel guilt or shame, but just to move forward in the direction that you're calling us to live. God, if you're calling us to do something, you will give us the power to do it, the ability to do it. That you give us the courage to do it. Help us to hand every single part of our lives over